Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought I would today talk about the AMX-32 105 since we just finished spading it, and to be honest it wasn't actually that hard to spade, and that's kind of a new thing. Recently I've been going through just a ton of awful vehicles to spade, but the AMX-32 105 was a breath of fresh air. Now, I've been looking forward to this vehicle for a long time. The reason why I took so long to spade it is because I had nothing else to research in the French tree, so I waited until there was a few things that turned up so we wouldn't waste research, and now we're here with it finished and the Santal also got. The vehicle itself has okay turret rotation speed, but one of its lacking factors, I would say, is its good old vertical speed only being 4.7. This means that if you run into the 9.7s and the 10.0s, which is something that you'll do a lot, because that's generally where the premiums are nowadays, instead of around 9.0, you can have a bit of a tough time. For example, stuff like the Leopard 2K, which you'll see a lot, has a vertical speed of 49 degrees per second, which seems completely wrong, and it is, because it's in arcade, so let's just change that real quick. But it has a targeting speed of 14 degrees per second. So basically double what you have, and that's kind of what you'll run into if you are unlucky when it comes to AMX-32. Because of the premiums being at 9.7 and 10.0, you do get uptiered quite a lot, but I did have a decent amount of 8.3, 9.3 matches as well, which was quite nice. And in those matches, the AMX dominates. It doesn't have the armor that you would wish to be able to dominate against those things, but it does tank a lot of shots because of how it's set up. The fuel tank will tank a lot of shots, and also since the way that the crew's set up, generally you won't get one shot with most rounds, because the first stage ammo storage in the back of the turret usually doesn't pop after you get shot frontally. The 20mm is also just a breath of fresh air, taking out helicopters, taking out a bunch of different things with it, which is just fantastic. It's one of the nicest things about the vehicle and makes it different compared to a lot of the other ones that are around the BR. Then you got the 105mm. I mean, it works completely fine. The OFL 105 F1 is a good round. Not the best at the BR, but good enough, and is able to go through pretty much anything. The only vehicles I've really struggled against is some Soviet vehicles, basically penning them and non-penning them. Many people have had this issue, especially around these BRs, where you shoot them in the side and then not a lot happens. You know, maybe you take out one of the crew, but for some reason they don't pop, and it's still happening, which is kind of sad. It does have access to thermals as well, which is quite nice, and also the laser at rank 1. What I actually found with this vehicle is getting parts and FPE was super easy, and then getting the APFSDS was pretty easy too. I had them all three of those after about 3 or 4 games, which isn't always the case with a lot of these vehicles, and also having the Laser Rangefinder at rank 1 means that you can kind of couple it with the APFSDS before you get the mobility upgrades, and that is one of the things that's definitely not as good on this thing. So the gun's good, you know, the reload's standard, the thermals are nice, the laser early on and the APFSDS early on is really good, but the mobility of this thing is definitely nowhere near other vehicles. So it has a 680 horsepower engine. This is with all of the modifications, so without them it feels very sluggish. I thought the tracks would actually do a massive improvement to this thing, because this thing's turning ability is pretty weak, but it turns out it didn't at all, so that's a bit of a problem for the vehicle. The transmission says that it could go fast forwards and backwards, and my experience is the acceleration of the vehicle is just not there. So if you compare it to a lot of other stuff like the Begleit, the Puma, you know, the Leo 2K, even stuff like the standard Leopards, you are nowhere near as fast as them, which kind of sucks. So that means that in the start of the match, you have to take more defensive positions in order to kind of push through and then counterattack after you've taken that hit, which is completely fine if the enemy isn't good with CAS or, you know, isn't good on second spawn, but sometimes they are. The other thing is, I played it at its BR. The reason why I was happy to see the AMX 32-105 is so I could run it with the AMX-32 and also the Santal, and whatever else is around the BR. It basically meant that you had a new backup instead of having to rely on the Brennus at 9.3. Well, at 9.0 now, you still have to rely on the Brennus, but, you know, at least it's a little bit easier, or you could bring up the SK105, which is a fantastic vehicle, and that could work pretty well. So, at its BR, the AMX-32-105 has the 2 premiums with it, and that's it, which kind of sucks. But it does give a good backup to the standard AMX-32, which I think is nice. And also this thing can solo carry, since it is more of a standard MBT around 9.0, which is good. And also at the same time, you know, has a lot of other stuff going on for it. My service record in this vehicle was... it was, let's see, 58 battles, 53% win rate, 104 kills of the ground, 46 deaths. So basically a 2-to-1, and then also 8 air kills on top of it, which was mainly helicopters and a few other things. I thoroughly enjoyed my time in this thing, would highly recommend it. You know, there's a lot of MBTs around these BRs which are super fun to play, and the AMX-32-105 is no different. So make sure to get your hands on it, make sure to give it a bit of fun, and hopefully we'll see this area of France expanded once again so we can have a bit of fun in it. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Cupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R., and Lafouche for supporting the channel.